Good morning, Milwaukee. Bobby Tanzillo here from OnMilwaukee. I'm at the Milwaukee Public Museum for my weekly walk, and we are going to walk back in time today by walking the streets of Old Milwaukee before I head upstairs for a preview of the new Nelson Mandela exhibit. Let's start this way because it's the official entrance. This is when they redid the streets a few years ago, they installed this new entrance, which is a trolley car, an old streetcar. But as you can see, the buildings scroll by and they let you kind of go back in time. And as you come through, you come out in the streets of Old Milwaukee. It's supposed to be the streetcar repair shop. There's the Falk Foundry. There's usually people walking by up there. So the streets, constructed, the idea kind of came about in the 1950s. But then by the time it got built, it was about 1964, I believe, late 64, maybe 65. And it's supposed to represent the city as it looked from around 1880 to about 1917. So there's a variety of things here. Okay, we're coming down. And it is a much beloved Milwaukee treasure. So some of these are new, like this was put in when the streetcar entrance was put in, as was that. Northside Lumber Company. So this all changed. This used to be the entrance here, and this was all sort of reconfigured. They added that bit. Here we are, and of course you see some very familiar names, some like George Watts. There's pretty great collections of Milwaukee stuff in here. And of course, if you've been here, you know all about this place, but cobblestone streets, sidewalks, beautiful old signage. Clody Furniture, that was another long-lived business. Print shop, the Nikolai Company print shop. And of course, there are some beloved figures in here as well. We'll get over there and say hi to Granny, who's back out on the rocking chair. Usingers. Pretty awesome. This is one of those things that when the museum moves, they know they got to take this with them. If you're worried about it going, I wouldn't worry too much about it. They've said numerous times that there's no way they can't take the streets of Old Milwaukee. It might look a little different, depending on the space. Maybe they'll expand it, maybe, who knows. None of that, I'm sure, has been decided yet. So Roundys Grocery Store. I love these little nooks in here. It's really just a fire exit, but here we are peering like peeping Toms into Granny's living room. I once sat in that living room with Granny for an interview. There's her granddaughter, who looks sad, but must be feeling better. They added this giant bike a few years ago when they redid the streets. They also added all of the audio stuff that you hear now too. It didn't used to be that, but now there's the sounds of horses walking and people talking, and there's period music and all that. Here we go. Here's Granny. Nice to see you, Granny. Way to mask up. Granny's got her mask on, as you can see. For a while, she was in the house, not out on the rocking chair, but she's back. There's the mailman with his, surely that's a Harley, right? Yep, with his Harley. Getting ready to deliver some mail to Granny, also masked up. It's one of these cool old police boxes. But the police actually used to stand inside, and it had a phone they could use to call back at the station. Frank Tepfer and Sons Locksmith, Ironwork. There's the theater, the Pastime Theater, which often is showing movies, but I'm not sure. I imagine at this point it is not. We can try the door, but my guess is with the coronavirus, some things like that are closed. The old street wires, look, there's a kite stuck up in the street wires. The electrical wires. if you've ever looked there. This is supposed to be River Street, now Edison. Toy Store. It's really accurate stuff. I love the sidewalk and the basement windows with the grates. There's the water pump, which is normally working, but again, at the moment, it's got a zip tie around it. Oh, that's over here is T.A. Chapman. Which of course was on Wisconsin Avenue across from the Pfister. Became one of the city's best department stores until it closed, I believe in the 70s. There's a Schlitz Tide House. I was in there once for some photos, some cool Schlitz Tide House memorabilia in there too, like those statues. It's just beautiful. I still wish they'd open it for a drink once in a while, but you know, it's a family place. So here's the Comfort, which has Charles Mader's first restaurant, which was on Blankenton Avenue originally, before moving up to 3rd Street. It's pretty awesome. Bakery, one of these great old water fountains. Look at that. It's pretty cool, isn't it? There's a bakery, no name on it. It's not branded. It's not Greeby's or anything. Look at this beautiful Conrad Schmidt Studios stained glass window. Here we are looking back down the street from whence we came. This is the pharmacy behind us here. Labs drugstore. With its elixirs and potions and tonics and the rest. Milwaukee Gas Light Company. Don't fail to look up when you're in here. There's the cat. Have you ever seen the cat? I'm not sure you're going to be able to see the cat, but the cat is here between the drugstore and the barber shop, right there between the buildings. Trust me, he's up there. Oh, and alas, we cannot go up. It's always nice to stop in and see Henry Ogden, the medical doctor, and Dr. Kuhn, the dentist up there. But again, closed for pandemic reasons. You can also normally go into the Kuhn General Store, but at the moment you cannot. You can just peek in. Beautiful tree. Of course, this is one you could normally go in, but it's currently closed. Next to the barber shop, the Haymarket Square Candy Store, which actually sells candy. Of course, if you've ever been here, and if you've ever been here with kids, you know that that is a popular stop because there is actual candy to be had. We're looking back from where we came. Go down the side here. Some exhibits about neighborhoods, African Americans in Milwaukee. Some biographical info, some objects. Here's the Watson family home. There's Mr. and Mrs. Watson, Sully and Susanna, who came to Milwaukee in 1850. Their daughter, Anne, was already here with her husband, William Anderson. Really, they were part of the first group of African Americans to settle in Milwaukee. There were about 100 at the time. And these guys lived on 3rd Street, 3rd and Everett. You know where that is, right where Zeidler Park is, in the We Energies building, right downtown behind what was Grand Avenue. This is pretty cool. This is so the Watsons are some of the actual people whose stories are told in the exhibit. If you go online and check out the Streets of Old Milwaukee site, you can find the stories of the different people who are represented. Hear their stories of living in Milwaukee at the time. So these are some residential properties. Judge Jason Downer over there, one of the Supreme Court justices. Here's an early log cabin, the Honor Log Cabin. It's an actual cabin that's built in Saukville by a German immigrant around the late 1830s. So it's pretty awesome. Peek into what life was like back then on the Wisconsin frontier. So once we get to the machine and pattern shop here, Harnischweger, we get sort of to the end of what is the Streets of Old Milwaukee, and it goes back in time. So we're sort of stepping further and further back in time, and I'm going to detour over here first. Here's Solomon and Josette Juno. And then here is the diorama showing Solomon Juno's trading post on water in Wisconsin. See, this is looking south, I believe. There's the Milwaukee River. That out there would be the Menominee Valley. Headed south. So Solomon Juno settled here permanently, I believe, in 1818. And he started Juno Town east of the river. Byron Kilbourne came soon after, started Kilbourne Town west of the river. George Walker started Walker's Point south of the river, and then ultimately they all merged to become Milwaukee in the 1840s. Around the same time, the state of Wisconsin was founded. And so to show where, and of course here are the people who lived here when Juno arrived. Of course, they were not the first people here. They were just the first Europeans to settle here permanently. Josette, of course, her was a daughter of Jacques Vaux, who had been here even before Solomon Juno. His cabin was up kind of where the domes are now, but he ultimately moved on. So Juno was the Junos were the first Europeans to settle here, but there were, of course, people living here for thousands of years before that. But where the Junos and the many people who would come to settle Milwaukee afterward mostly came from Europe. And so there's this European village, which is much like the Streets of Old Milwaukee, but shows homes from all different kinds of European houses representing the different people who came to Milwaukee from Europe in the 19th century. Of course, in the 20th century, the people came from many other places that were not Europe. Latin American countries, Asian countries, African countries, the entire world, right? We're all here now, which is pretty awesome. So this, I think, is the Greek house, if I remember correctly. It's beautiful, I love it. This fountain. See, so here we're back at the start of Streets of Old Milwaukee, but walking through La Maison Franais. You can tell they got a lot of bread. An English house to my right. Go down here. There's the Italian house, Casa Italiana. This is inside the Italian house. A nice big German mural. Here we come out into the square, the piazza, the plaza, call it what you will. Place. It's got a great fountain in it, which is currently empty. Again, pandemic business. Although people are still throwing coins in there. They don't care if there's no water. All right, here we go, walking up. Don't forget to look in the corners. Here's the Slovak house. Polish house. Coming to the end here, there's a great thatched roof. There's a man looking for a little something. If you lift his hat, you can make a wee donation. Just past the Swedish house is this little nook. Looking into the Latvian room. Hi, Lindsay. I'm not smelling any smells pumped into the room, but that would be a good idea. I wouldn't mind if by the French house they would pump in some fresh baguette smell. Then there's the creepy kids up there. Have you ever seen the creepy kids? They're just watching everyone go by. It's the Austrian house. It's an accordion. I guess we had a good April Fool's story there, didn't we? But they should pump smells in. I'll recommend that when I go upstairs and see the CEO. This is the Danish House. And we are reaching the end. But first we'll peek into the Belgian room, Le Chambre Belge. Don't laugh at my terrible, terrible French. The Dutch house. It's making a model sailboat. And lastly, but definitely not leastly, the Irish house. Pretty awesome. All right, we're going to come through this way. I'm trying to avoid people who may or may not want to be on. Oh, there's a Scott's house. May not want to be on a Facebook Live. And we're back to the beginning. And I thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to head upstairs, check out the new Nelson Mandela exhibit, which opens today. And we have written about it. We wrote about it last week, but I'm going to take some photos and I'll share a bit more on OnMilwaukee today about the Nelson Mandela exhibit, which opens today. So check out our story on OnMilwaukee about that. Come down, put your mask on, be safe, and enjoy your museum. Milwaukee, it belongs to you. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.